Welcome back. And we have been exploring the second chapter of the Gita. And in short, second chapter is the summary or the index of the Gita, because the entire subject matter covered in the Gita is highlighted in the second chapter. As we always discuss, the first 10 verses, the restatement of the problem, and also it shows how we surrender to a master for the guidance in life. So that was the theme. And then from verse 11 to 37, we got a detailed explanation or guidance from Krishna that we need to do what needs to be done. It's very important. And also we saw that means there is no situation in life that requires an extreme mentally depressed state. So this topic is reviewed from three different angles. Verse 11 to 30, we saw this from a spiritual perspective. And you might be remembering, we spent a lot of time in highlighting what is physical body, what is soul or the subtle body, and what is the nature of the Atma. And out of that, we spend a lot of time on Atma. And also we saw that what is the difference between this physical body, soul, and Atma. Because typically we identify ourselves with the physical body and soul. And last week also we discussed the point, right? There is a huge difference between saying that I am sad, and second thing is that I am feeling sad. So that's a huge shift Krishna was trying to discuss. So that is verse 11 to 30. And 31 to 33, again, a good amount of time explaining this from the dharmic perspective. So here I saw that even the theory means the words of Nataraja Guru, we called out that very in particular, like the comparison, right? Everybody has a swadharma. That's very important. And we say that we saw the famous statement of Nataraja Guru that the quality of an apple fruit should be compared with the apples, not with the orange. The quality of an orange should be judged based upon the orange quality of an orange. So you cannot compare an apple with an orange. So everybody has a mental composure, a swadharma, and they have to perform accordingly. So we saw that argument in detail, which has a lot of practical relevance. And also we saw a detailed argument on what needs to be done from the perspective of the world. From a mere worldly perspective, we saw that. So having established that fact, especially doing what needs to be done is important, and also thinking that there is no legitimate sodo that should take you to a depressed mode. Krishna said, it is easy to say this, but how do you gain the skill? So you need some practical technique by which you can gain the skill. And that's how he introduces the topic of yoga from on verse 39, 38, 39. And then he highlighted the glory of the yoga, especially from 38 to 53, that is the theme. He's introducing the famous yoga topic, predominantly focusing on karma yoga. And on verse 47, we saw a detailed analysis of what is karma yoga. We saw that 4 sutras, the choice or the control given to me is only on the actions and not on the results. So, and then means the choice is on the action, point number 1. You don't have direct control over the result, point number 2. So do focus on what you have control, and that is what the entire message of control, karma yoga, and leave the rest to God. Believing in God, leave the rest. And last week we saw a brilliant definition of yoga as evenness of the mind. What exactly is the first definition of the yoga is given by Krishna on verse 48, called Samatvam Yoga Uchyati. Yogastha Kuru Karmani Sangam Tektva Dhananjaya Sithya Sithyo Samo Bhutva Samatvam Yoga Uchyati. And today we are going to see the second definition of yoga. So this is where we were last week. So this is the famous verse of Karma Yoga. Karmani evaha adhikaraha tve ma phaleshu kadajana ma karma phala heduru bhoho ma te sangostu akarmani. So that is what the verse 47 is. Verse 48, we saw the definition of yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Then we saw 49, karma yoga versus normal karma. Durena hyavaram karma, means that's what we are going to see today. So, sorry. So, Anu, can you chant verse 49?
Is it an echo?
Yeah, there is an echo. So, could you please chant once again?
Dureణ హ్యవరం కర్మ బుద్ధియోగాత్ ధనంజయ బుద్ధౌ శరణమన్విచ్ఛ కృపణాః ఫలహేతవః.
Beautiful. There is another verse which is highlighting. See, you have two choices in performing action. One is you can perform any normal worldly action as a yoga. That is option number one. And you can perform the way you perform right now. There is a huge difference between the normal performance of action versus performing action in the spirit of karma yoga. So that is what is highlighted in this verse. So Krishna tells durena hyavaram karma, means the karma, the normal action, the normal way you perform the action, meaning without having an evenness of mind, without having that mental stability, I take up the action. And the choice of the action is not properly judged or properly managed. I don't know what is the purpose of my life. I just go and engage in action. I'm going to talk about that scientifically today, a little bit later, based on a beautiful, relatively modern neurology, means psychology perspective. I'm going to talk about that. So we have no identity or understanding on what exactly is the real meaningful actions for me. I don't prioritize. I do engage in action which is not less important. And when I engage in that action, my attitude is I don't have that mental stability. And when I get the results of the action, means what happens? I'm extremely happy when I get the positive results, and I get completely devastated when it is wrong. So that is the problem of the normal actions. So Krishna tells this normal way of functioning, it is far inferior compared to the buddhi yoga Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya means the one who conquered the world, O Arjuna, or he is addressing to all of us. Understand that if you have a real conqueror of wealth, you have to perform the action in this way. So durena hyavaram karma, buddhi yoga Dhananjaya. So you are this karma yoga, when you perform the action in the spirit of karma yoga, that is far better compared to the normal way of functioning. That's what it is said. And then he tells, buddhau sharanamanyuscha kripana phalahitavaha. So buddhau sharanamanyuscha, seek refuge in this karma yoga, because that is the lifesaver for you. Kripana phalahitavaha. If you act just for that results of action, extremely attached to that results of action, such people do not have proper discrimination. The word used is kripanaha, means misers. Such people are like a miser. Miser means when he has a potential to spend and enjoy, what happens? He do not spend joy. He do have money and he suffers. So people who can potentially do their action in the yoga spirit and gain a lot of happiness, a lot of efficiency, but what they do, they prefer to suffer. So kripana phalahitavaha, the people who are just working for that results or that obsessed with the results of action, they are called as kripanaha. So once again, let's see the meaning. So durena hyavaram karma, this is the santhi vichedaha. Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yogat Dhananjaya buddhau sharanamanyischa kripana phalahitavaha. So the action based on desire or the normal action karma is therefore far inferior compared to the action done with proper attitude, that is karma yoga. And then what happens? Therefore, seek refuge in this buddhi yoga. Buddhi yoga means karma yoga. Kripana phalahitavaha. Those who performs only action in the normal way, they are kripanaha, like they are misers, or they are non-discriminatory people. That is beautiful. Again, this is the karma yoga versus normal karma. So each one of us, right from brushing our teeth to the every action we do, we have an option to convert that action into a karma yoga. And so we'll see this the specifics house in the third chapter, because like we'll go through what type of actions we need to perform, what are the conditions we need to do in the selection of the action, what exactly our mental attitude while we execute the action, and what exactly our attitude when we get the results of the action. We will see that in the third chapter. But Krishna is saying that when this blessing, when this great skill is given to you, if you're not following this, you're just wasting your resource, right? You can see in, it means I often see, like in a lot of people, when they can improve their standard of life, when they can perform well what they do, they cannot change. They just stick with what they have. So such people are called miserly people, because they do have an option to change. They do have an option to live better, but they prefer to suffer. So they create a hell in a heaven, potential heaven. And that is the difference between karma yoga versus this normal karma. So the word buddhi yoga here means karma yoga. It is an act. What exactly, why karma yoga is called buddhi yoga is the intelligence is involved, because your attitude of samatvam, which we talked in the previous verse, is employed here. Because with respect to the results, and when you perform the action, you are keeping that mental stability. So that is very important. So this buddhi yoga is called as karma yoga, or karma yoga is called as buddhi yoga rather. And this is the reason. And usually karma is performed typically under the spell of ragadvesha. Ragadvesha means strong like and dislikes. Because when I'm extremely attached to the result of action, what happens? I'm worried, I'm anxious while I'm performing the action. And when I get the result, what happens? I'm extremely happy, or sometimes indifferent, and sometimes it is totally devastating. So Krishna is saying that misers are the people who aims only for petty small results. Remember last week I told you one story. Imagine, means a kid is praying to a god. Kid means like a person who is not matured. Like if the god comes in front of him, God asks you, like, what do you want? Like you say that, okay, I need 10 balloons. When you have an opportunity to ask for $1 million, like I'm just, again, that is not the ultimate thing, because imagine that is the potential, and you settle for one balloon. So that childish attitude is there in all of us. When we are settled only for that small result, not the highest results of life, which is moksha, meaning moksha means freedom of suffering, freedom from all the suffering. So this is compared to karma yoga, this sakama karma or normal action. It's far inferior. This is the meaning of this verse. So this is probably the beginning of any spiritual practitioner. As I always say, like the spiritual journey can be divided into two major steps. One is the step of yoga, and the other one is the step of knowledge. Under the step of yoga, you have two yogas you need to practice. One is karma yoga, the other one is upasana yoga. Means every other yoga we hear, like whether it is hatha yoga or bhakti yoga or like dhyana yoga, everything can be folded under that definitions of karma yoga, upasana yoga. The purpose of the karma yoga is mental purity, and the purpose of the upasana yoga is the stability of the mind. And once you have the stability and the purity, that is the combined effort called here. When you have that purity and stability, your mind can perform wonder. So every action we perform is an opportunity to train our mind in this direction. And people are blessed are those who are doing their action in this karma yoga spirit. And misers are those who do have an opportunity to convert their action into karma yoga, but they fail to do so. Any questions? So we need to this from the last week's session. This is first. So if that is good, let's go to the next verse, which is verse 50. And in this verse 50, we will say the second definition of yoga. So that's Anu, would you chant?
बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह उभे सुकृत दुष्कृते तस्मात् योगाय युज्यस्व योगः कर्मसु कौशलम्.
Beautiful words. Again, yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Yoga is the skill and efficiency in action. Underline this. This is one of the most wonderful definition of yoga. Yoga is efficiency or skill in action. This needs discussion, beautiful discussion. So the first definition of yoga was, remember, please remember these three verses, and that's why I requested Anu to help you with the three verses chanting today. One is 47, second one is 48, and the third one is 50. Let's try to remember this verse. These three verses gives the karma yoga explained, and then the two definitions of yoga comes in these two verses. First definition was samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is the skill in keeping the mind stable or equanimous with respect to all the ups and downs of life. The second definition of the yoga is efficiency or skill in action. Wonderful definitions. So let's see that. So bhukti yukto means having endowed in karma yoga, engaged in karma yoga. Remember, there are two ways for me to engage in an action or a karma. One is I can engage in an action with a normal attitude. That means I have not done the due diligence in the selection of the action, prioritization of the action. I have not done anything there. And then what happens when I'm working in the action? My result is I'm extremely obsessed with the results of the action. As a result, what happens? My mind is anxious and my mind is worried. As a result, I cannot focus on the action 100%. Remember the example of the surgeon I was talking? The surgeon is very capable, but he cannot put that efficiency into what he is doing, because what? He is extremely obsessed with at a particular outcome. So that means what? He cannot put the action, or he cannot do the job well up to his potential. As a result, naturally the result is going to suffer. So that's the problem. So this is the way you work. And he said, endowed in karma yoga, engage in karma yoga, and then renounce what? Upe sukrita dushkriti. Like you engage in the action with abandoning the anxiety for both shubha and dushkrita, and also take whatever outcome you take that and an evenness of mind. And therefore Krishna gives one suggestion: tasmat yogaya yujyasva. Therefore you perform all your action. In this particular context it is a war, but for us the life, engage the war of life. Therefore means tasmad yogaya yujyasva. Just engage in life with this attitude. For what? Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Yoga is the efficiency in action or skill in action. What exactly is that skill? We are going to see that in a minute. So this is what it is. So this is the Santi Vicheda. Bhukti yuktaha jahati means whatever action you are doing. Upe means iha here. Upe both sukrita dushkrite means success and unsuccess. Tasmat, therefore, yogaya yujyasva. Therefore, engage in yoga and do what needs to be done. The last quarter is the most important one. Yogaha karmasu kaushala. So one who is endowed with this yoga, the first definition was samatva buddhi, the sameness of the mind. So that is the first part. The one who is endowed with the samatva buddhi or the evenness of mind, buddhi yuktaha, gives up punya and papa or any anxiety for the results in this world. Therefore, commit yourself to karma yoga, because karma yoga or yoga is a discretion in action or skillfulness in action. So now let's talk about what exactly it is. We are going to understand this a little bit more. So Krishna is saying that devote yourself into yoga. He who is not identifying with the stormy sea of mind, because typically what happens, we identify ourselves with the mind, we will not be able to perform the action well. And yoga is a skill in action. So there are two skills you need to do. One is selection of action, because you cannot, where exactly you wanted to perform, right? So the one point is, as human beings, we are endowed with a set of choices in action, right? Where exactly I want to put priority. So what type of actions I should select. So the skill in action, Shankaracharya brilliantly refers to this, because otherwise this can be misinterpreted. For example, if you typically I see that this verse is translated as yoga is efficiency in action. Swami Dayananda used to say, a person doing pickpocketing, he is also skillful in action. So his action is not yoga. So that's very important. So there are selection of the action is important. What action I can do and what action is going to benefit me a lot. So that is point number one. Third chapter is going to give a beautiful guidance, a clear steps. It's a clear steps are given. How do I select an action? So the first part is yoga is skill in action, meaning the first skill is identification of what actions I should do. Second thing is the prioritization, because you all know that being professional, prioritization is extremely important. Nobody can do every action in front of me. So what you have to do, you have to select that action which is really means priority to me. What is good for me for my growth? So that these are the two things, selection and prioritization of action. And the second one is, how do I perform that selected action, right? So how do I perform this action? This is very important. How do I perform the action? Typically what I do perform that action with a third-rate mind, meaning a mind that is not 100% applicable to that, applied to that action. A mind that is not 100% applied to that action means what? I cannot perform that action in an efficient way. So when I have this evenness of mind, I can, once the action is selected, I can perform this action in the best possible manner. In Shankara's commentary, he calls out a brilliant sentence here. He tells, what you have to do is plan out your work and then work out your plan. Brilliant. Plan out your work and then work out your plan. Plan out your work means you have to plan for the work. What exactly is the actions I can select, and why I should select, and then what is my priority? That is what it is. And then work out your plan once you select the plan without getting obsessed with the result. And he tells, former without latter. Like if you just do only planning without execution, it's a sheer waste of time. You may have, means a lot of people are like that. They create wonderful plan, but never follow that plan. So that is sheer waste of time. And second, meaning second without the first. If you just go ahead and work, you're just interested in work. Some people are like that. They just go and do, but absolutely not their plan. And he tells that's an unproductive confusion. Like Steve Jobs called this out quote. Just understand that. This is very popular. This quote is very important. Plan out your work out your plan. Former without latter is waste of time. Latter without former is an unproductive confusion. This is the essence of Karma Yoga. You have to have that skill in the selection of the action, and you have to have that skill in the execution of action. These two skills are combined, known as yoga is a skill in action. So pickpocketing, what happens? It will fail. It will be filtered off in that selection of action. And once an action is selected, right action is selected, you will put the best into that. In this context, I just wanted to bring your attention to one of the modern research conducted on psychology. So modern psychology, especially the positive psychology formulated by Seligman, he talks about the happiness or the motivation. What is the definition of the motivation? Per some of the latest psychological research, they say the motivation comes when we have three factors aligned. One is alignment, second thing is envisioning, and the third one is resilience. These are the three essential things they call out in the psychology as the key requirements for motivation. Because what do you want? Like typically you want to work without feeling that it is a work. That is the flow. That is the state we wanted to achieve through this yoga. I remember like Warren Buffett is making a statement. He used to work even at the age of 80. He said that every day is like a holiday for me. I'm working because I'm enjoying it. It's like going to a vacation. So imagine you're, and I'm not saying that you should work like 80 years, but if you have that skill and you go to Monday to work, if you feel that it is like, okay, I'm doing something really my own hobby, and since my employer is nice, I'm getting some paid for that. That's the ideal stage. That is the karma yoga. Karma yoga is going to take you to that stage at the end, because I'm enjoying, thoroughly enjoying every moment. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And also I'm not, which means upset with the ups and downs that is happening that job. Therefore, I'm able to perform that action to the best of my ability. You'll see results coming through. This means take the high performers in any industry. You can see these qualities. So that's what is related in this yoga. And that is why yoga is called as skillful action, efficiency in action. Naturally, the normal third right action becomes extremely efficient. You can see that you will be productive. Like the other day, one person was coming to me like, try to understand. He wants to study some technical subject, but he cannot study. He said like whenever he opens the book, it's a aid for sleep. I heard this a lot in the PMP book. A lot of people tells me like, if somebody has insomnia, refer this book. And one person told me that he got this printed book and he keep this in his under the pillow. Like whenever he doesn't sleep, just open a couple of pages, you sleep. So that's not what you're talking here. It is that inspired activity. And you feel that it is like once you work, you feel that you're so relaxed. Of course, you need to go and take rest for the fatigueness of the body, but the mind is so calm. I've seen people like, I personally seen some spiritual teachers. They work, Swami Chinmayananda, for example, he used to work 18 to 20 hours every day, but ever fresh. Of course, he needs rest. The body needs rest, but the mind is ever fresh. Swami Chinmayananda was classic example. And even there are a lot of people. See, typically, I was reading, like typically when a person travel to Leh Ladakh, you need this acclimatization. Actually, when our Prime Minister and a couple of people went, they were ready to work on the moment he landed in Leh. He was ready to, ever fresh. See, I'm not talking about the political aspect. I just wanted to show the skillful action. There are hundreds of people like Michael Jordan. If you read his autobiography, you could see this thing. Like he found his purpose of life and he was dedicating to that. And he just explained. You can see this in his autobiography. Mahendra Singh Dhoni, you can read his stories, means how he faced the challenges. You can see this type of stories in his life. So many people around the world, you can see how they were acting. And this is the skillful action. Yoga Karma Sukhaushalam. Vivekananda, every page I read of Vivekananda, I get this message. So this is an extremely important topic. Please contemplate upon this. So this alignment means how do you align with our values and higher purpose? I'm going to talk about in the next verse also, because typically, if you really have a self-analysis and see where exactly I'm spending the time, is that where I want to spend the time? And it's very important that you understand this higher values. What exactly you are standing for? What is going to make you happy? In the next chapter, I'm going to give you a karma journals, right? Means one of the very good technique for you to get out, understand who you are in your self-analysis is journaling. We can give a few prompts, and if you write that prompt properly, the true self will start exploring out who you are. what you want, what exactly you want. Typically you think that you want this, but is that really you want? And it will help you to focus your work in the direction what exactly is your purpose of life. So that is the alignment. So when your work is aligned with your values and the higher purpose of life, naturally you will get motivation. Then what happens? The work is not a burden. It becomes an inspiration, and it becomes a worship, and it becomes a relaxation. Second thing is envisioning, seeing the desired future for yourself. What exactly, again, it is going to the goal of your life. It is what exactly is the goal of your life, what exactly you wanted to accomplish. It's very important, and envisioning is a key factor in motivation. And the third one is what? Resilience, the ability to overcome the obstacle, because you know that this is the purpose of my life, and in between the challenges comes in, and you cannot just fall flat at the time of the first outburst of the challenge. Look at the life of Krishna. You think that Krishna had the wonderful life right from the birth till the age of 12, no, till the end of his life. He had always challenges. He was abused, he was blamed, and he was cheated. Means his own people. Even the last days of his life was challenging because the whole clan was fighting each other. And even the Gandhari's curse. And actually, there is a beautiful article how evenly Krishna handled it. So this is what it is. The alignment, envisioning, and resilience, these are the key factors of this motivation. And this definition of this motivation is well aligned with the definition of Karma Yoga, efficiency in action. So it is my request, because the second chapter, we have 3 definitions of yoga. One is Samatvam Yoga Uchyate, the first definition, which is on verse 48. Second definition is Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam, which is on 50. And then we have one more definition, Samatha Achala Bupphi, Tata Yogam Avapsisi, verse 53. So these 3 definition gives a comprehensive definition of yoga. And there are 2 more definition comes in the 6th chapter. So we have all together 5 definitions. Of course, there are a couple of more, but 5 definitions, major definitions of yoga. So now you may ask a question, right? What is the means? You have this Karma Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Again, as I said, the goal of every yoga practice is to give a pure and controlled mind. Any practice, any spiritual practice that helps you to gain a pure and controlled mind is for any yoga you practice. It is helping, means it helps you to get the evenness of the mind. It is going to help you to get efficiency in action. And the overall goal is Chitta Shuddhi and the Chitta Sthiti. This is the goal of all the yoga. So it doesn't matter. Yoga is a broad umbrella under which you have Karma Yoga, under which you have Upasana Yoga as major buckets. And under that you can have Bhakti Yoga, Hatha Yoga, like Kundalini Yoga. All these yogas will come. One classic example used by Vivekananda is not Vivekananda, I think it is Shankaracharya. He's like, there is a one big ocean, and one means Shankaracharya didn't use this particular example. I'm just paraphrasing in modern term. So one big ocean is there. This ocean is called as Pacific in one area, Atlantic in another area, Indian Ocean in another area, Arctic Ocean in another area. But eventually there is only one ocean. That's what it is. Yoga is only one. It is a broad ocean. And when depending upon the spiritual practice, with lots of different styles of spiritual practices and processes, that is yoga. It's a vast vision. And in that vast vision, you can have one way of looking at it is as Karma Yoga, another way of looking at it as Bhakti Yoga, and another one is like the Kundalini Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, everything. But any yoga must follow these 2 definitions. One is Chitta Shuddhi and the Chitta Sthiti. And that's what we are seeing here. So please have that broader understanding. Because unfortunately, when you say yoga in United States, the picture comes is the Hatha Yoga, only the Hatha Yoga. But Hatha Yoga is only a tip of the iceberg. That's it. Any questions? These 2 definitions are clear?
Rajesh, one question here.
Yeah, please.
I mean, all the examples that we see from the past, people who have done or implemented all these yogas in their life. Example like Swami Chinmayananda, Swami Vivekananda, and anyone. And in the present world also, like we see the example of our Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, right? So, do you think that because they have been doing from their childhood, and it was an easy practice for them, while for us, I'll talk for my personally. For me, I started learning these things very late in my age, so it might take longer time than what usually it is done for some of the leaders that we have seen, or some of the yogi gurus that we have seen.
Yep. So that's a good question. Right? So what happens is, one, some people are blessed. They are naturally getting to this at the beginning of their life. How it happens? It is because of their karma, because they might have been doing that in their past life, and they are almost a ripe fruit, and this life they are blessed with that. But I think you also have a karma, some JG, because what happens is, you and me and all of us, without that karma, we would not have pulled into this. I can just tell you using the definition of this yoga karma kaushalam, because I said the selection of action is also yoga. Now, on a Sunday afternoon, you had how many possibilities? You could have gone for a drink and had a wonderful party, right? That's one option. Another option is you could have lied down and slept. It's wonderful. Another option is you have gone and watched a movie at this time. That's why the selection of the action. You need to understand the purpose of the life. So something in you forced you to commit yourself to the study. That itself is a great thing. So it doesn't matter, again, what is the definition of the yoga? Don't be obsessed when you are going to get it. You got started. Commit yourself to that practice. You will see the result comes quickly. And sometimes you can say that quick turnarounds. So let's hope for that. And don't worry about the outcome. Just practice, commit yourself into karma yoga. And Krishna told us in the 41st verse, right? Swalpam arpes, even minor change you make, it will pay big dividends in your life. So that's
very true. Thank you.
Positively, right? Yep. Excellent. But keep these two definitions of yoga, and you should be very clear what exactly is yoga when you go through the Bhagavad Gita or Patanjali Yoga Sutra. You see very similar definitions of yoga in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Okay, so any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go to the last verse of today's session, which is verse 51. So the glory of Karma Yoga. So, Anu, could you chant this?
कर्मजं बुद्धियुक्ता हि फलं त्यक्त्वा मनीषिणः जन्मबन्धविनिर्मुक्ताः पदं गच्छन्त्यनामयम्.
Yep. Karmajam buddhiyuktahi. So, and again, Krishna is repeating. So, one thing you just see in Krishna's teaching going forward is, anything you see, he comes take that back to this yoga. Anything you say, he'll take finally come back to yoga as a solution. So practice yoga. So perform your action endowed in this yoga and renounce the attachment for the fruits of action. That is what you have to do. Janma bandha vinirmuktaha. So not even a fool will do an action without seeing some benefit. And what exactly is the benefit? Janma bandha vinirmuktaha. It will free you. It will release you from all the bondage of life. Padam getyanda namayam. And you will reach a state without any suffering. That is the ultimate everybody is looking for. So that is the promise given. So let's see. So the wise means karmajam buddhiyukta hi balam yiktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gachyanta namayam. The wise, I told you the joke. Swami Dayananda always say there are two categories of people. One is wise and the other wise. So here we are talking about the wise people. So Manishinaha, the one who is wise people, endowed with this attitude of karma yoga, they don't do karma in the normal way. They perform the karmas in karma yoga spirit, and they gave up their obsession for the results of action. And then as a result, they get freed from all the bondage, and they get into the ultimate state, means which is freedom from all suffering. So the glory of the karma yoga, that is what is highlighted here. Why a person should pursue karma yoga, that is so the wise, those who know the art of living, like the life itself is an art. So those who knows the art of living, they do what they do, they undertake the appropriate work. That is point number one we saw in the previous verse. Second thing is what they maintain themselves in the full evenness of mind, and they abandon all the anxieties for the fruits of their action. So that is the evenness of mind we talked earlier. And they take the results of the action positively. Once you have done the best, whatever the result comes in, they take it positively. And this higher purpose of life becomes more meaningful. That is, they will find a higher purpose of life, and their life becomes more meaningful. That is the first benefit. Second thing is, the work won't be a burden anymore. Every day it's a relaxation for them. Whenever they do work, that work itself is a relaxation. As I said, their rest is needed only for the physical fatigue. Mentally, they will be ever charged. And the third thing is, the benefit is that they will be eventually freed from all the sufferings. These are the biggest benefit of karma yoga. Who doesn't want that? And last week also I said, those who do not have any intention for spiritual practices, still they can practice this karma yoga, because karma yoga is so important for anybody's life, because it is going to make you more skilled, it is going to make you focused, and it is going to give you a purpose of life, and it is going to make all your take away all the burdens of your work. The work becomes that Monday means symptoms will be go away, right? It is because that is one of the greatest cause of stress in the modern world. So that's what it is. This is the glory of the karma yoga. It can change our life completely. I agree with the fact, like when you practice initially, you are not reaching the end, but the moment you start the karma yoga, immediately you will see the result. I can vouch that with myself. How much change it happened to me, made it happen to me. Like how much efficiency it brought into my work. I've started the journey only, as you said, but that made a lot of difference. And you can see that in everybody's life, in your own life, means not others' life, of your own life is the best example of looking into this. I just wanted to bring your attention to one popular book in the modern term, which is talking about the same concept. Tony Hsieh. Have anybody heard of him in this call?
The inspirational speaker?
No, he's a CEO of Zappos.
Okay, sorry.
He's a very famous person, Tony Hsieh. Actually, his story is he started a company at the age of 20, and he sold that to Microsoft at the age of 24 for $200+ million. And then he started this company, Zappos, and grew it to almost like a huge enterprise from almost nothing. Like $1 billion is their annual sale right now. And he has a lot of insights into the pursuit of happiness, and in the context of work. Again, his goal is not spiritual, but his goal is the bottom line. But remember, he identified these 3 points in this famous book, Delivering Happiness. This is the book. And I found this book very interesting, like very much aligned with this yoga philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. So he tells there are 3 types of happiness. One is called pleasure. Pleasure means the type of happiness you always chasing the next high, right? So you're a director, you chase for an assistant vice president. When you become an assistant vice president, you're happy for some time. Then what happens? You chase for the vice president. And you want a car, means initially you just dreamed for a car. What happens? You wanted a luxury car. Then you need a small house, a townhouse, to an independent house, to a mansion, whatnot. You wanted this brand, this thing, that thing, all these things. It definitely gives you a pleasure. And this is about always chasing the next one. And he brilliantly calls out in that book that the happiness that arises from this pleasure is highly unsustainable. This is not me telling. This is not a spiritual master like Vivekananda is telling. This is one of the most successful CEO in a best-seller book. He's calling this out. This is the book. Anybody is interested, you can read it. It is beautiful. And the second one he tells is the passion. The second type of happiness. The second type of happiness means the passion means the flow. Like at your peak performance, when you're doing something with forgetting yourself. Again, he tells, call out, when the ego is forgotten, what happens? The peak performance will come, the time will fly, and the happiness arises from it is more sustainable. Suppose you find a work that is your passion. Definitely, that is great. And then he calls out a work for a higher purpose. He tells that this is about being part of something bigger than yourself, and something has a lot of meaning for you. And Lord, he calls out in this book was fantastic. He tells most of the people don't realize what exactly is their higher purpose. And then what happens? The happiness arises from higher purpose of life is highly sustainable. Lifelong sustainable. This is the point. Do you see any connection here? Exactly the same thing, right? And then one more point. He tells, typical a person's attitude is 80% of his work he will seek pleasure. Conscious actions are always seeking pleasure. And then what happens? In between, accidentally we could come across some passion. And most of the people are completely, they're unaware or blind on that higher purpose. So in this book, he calls out, why don't you shift the order? First thing is, you consciously try for the higher purpose and make sure that the passion is managed. And then in between, try for the pleasure. This will, he tells, this will change your life in a revolutionary way. When I was reading this book, I read this book very recently, like a couple of days back. I said, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm going to talk on this verse. I found very, very, very interesting. So this is exactly what, what the rishis were telling in the ancient time. It's being retold and restated through different people, through different path. He was trying as a CEO, and that's why he developed this company Zappos with the idea that delivering happiness is their tagline. How? They try to find some meaning purpose for everybody. So this is very important. Anybody who is interested, you can read this book. It is very interesting. So these are, yeah.
Yeah, I just shared it in the library.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. This is fantastic book. So please go and read. And also see, I know that I'm talking about one book every week. See, I don't talk about a book which I have never read. So, and also, like, you are all reading a lot of books. If you have good suggestions, the other day Nagi shared a book. I just got that book and started reading that. Internet to Innernet. So that is one interesting book that popped up. So if you have come across any such book, please put in our group. We all can learn and understand. Reading is definitely, it is a good skill, and it is definitely going to improve the depth and breadth of your thinking. So I think a lot of people find it like once they come out of the college, it is very difficult for them to read. I think this is a good time to restart that reading habit. But I'm quoting that book because this is pretty much relevant to the topic here. Okay, so we saw three verses. We saw verse 49, 50, and 51. So 49, verse 49 talks about the glory of karma yoga with respect to the normal karma. Verse 50, we saw the definition of yoga. Yoga karmasu kaushalam, skillful action. And we saw that the skillful action has two dimensions. One is the selection or the discretion of what action to be done, what action is not done, and what action to be avoided. So that is very important. And then while performing the action needs to be efficient. And then finally, we saw that next verse, what is the biggest benefit of karma yoga? It is going to redirect you to the purpose of your life. It is going to help you to the purpose of your life. It is going to make your work smooth. It is going to take you to the highest possibilities of your life. So that is why you need to perform karma yoga. So we'll continue this discussion. We covered up to 51, 52, 53, 54. We will cover next week. 53, he concludes the discussion on this yoga. And then Arjuna had a question, and we'll continue that. So today, what I would means, if there is any questions, we can take it. Otherwise, I would request Anu to teach us, chant these three verses, 47, 50, sorry, 48, 47, 48, and 50. And then what we will do from next week is, what Anu suggested to me was, from next Sunday, we will, immediately after our class, she will start teaching the chanting of the Gita. Even the kids can attend. She will chant and she will explain the chanting. We can fine tune the formatting, etc. If means we can listen to people chanting and correct it, etc. But purely it is a chanting perspective. So people who do not want to attend even the lecture, they can come, because I don't think this lecture is made for the kids, but the chanting, if anybody is interested, that would be fine. Any questions?
Rajesh, I have a question.
Yeah.
So here the higher purpose, delivering happiness, so pleasure, passion, and higher purpose. What would be an example for a higher purpose when it is a non-spiritual?
Sure. Yeah. So there are hundreds of examples. Actually, I read in this book talks about different examples. Like one person started, like his goal was there should not be anybody starving in this town, like those who do not have food. So he started a small project, and naturally, immediately he found that help's coming from a lot of, because see, if you think about that goal has a it's much higher than the capacity of one individual. Immediately works, help started flowing in and deliver that. There are means and when we go to the third chapter, I'm going to make you do an exercise which I've already designed right now, which is going to help you to understand the purpose of yourself. And what they say is, for you to understand your purpose, you have to look inside yourself. The first skill you have to look inside yourself is you have to develop that mindfulness, the ability of that evenness of that mind. So we have a few exercises trying to find out what is the purpose of life. And unfortunately, this is hidden in a lot of people. And when you are not identifying, because my higher purpose would be totally different from yours. And it doesn't matter that it should be spiritual only. It can be even secular. It can be even worldly. So that's good enough. So we'll more.
Any idea what was his higher purpose? Zappos CEO's higher purpose?
His one was like make sure that his employees are happy. They are actually moving higher, and above all, the customers are happy. So he, in this book, you can read one chapter. I think the final chapter, he describes how he implemented that, how he discovered and how he implemented that. And that was very successful. And as a result, what happened was the company's turnover got so big, because the Zappos is known for the customer satisfaction, employee centricity and customer satisfaction. And he implemented that in a very, very efficient way. So the book is there in the library. So please take that and just read. It's only 100 pages, I believe. You can quickly read this book. It's well written.